Edgar Canyon, both indoor and nights in your sky dome will be like sleeping in an aquarium of stars.
Advertisers.
All right, what's going on, everybody? A very happy Thursday. Thank you so much for joining us. Certainly a busy news day, of course. We're on the YouTube Super Chat, YouTube at BTL Radio Show, the FMAM Dial KSHP. We're on TikTok, we're on Twitch, we're everywhere. Of course, our new popular Facebook fan page. We appreciate you being part of the show. All 200,000 listeners of you a day. We appreciate you being here. As I mentioned, I'm going to be flying out to D.C. tomorrow to be debating Tim Pool, Myron Gaines, Alex Stein, and many others. So if you're in D.C., certainly check that out. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, he is the chairman of the Nevada Young Republicans. He's also a political strategist. Woodrow Johnson's going to be joining us in studio here in just a few minutes. And certainly we're going to be covering what continues to be a government shutdown. Really weird today. Donald Trump holding a press conference and one of his own passing out in the middle of the press conference. They had to actually cancel the press conference because of it. So we're going to talk about that as well. But without further ado, I've been wanting to get this guy on the show, certainly ever since he was pardoned. He's done this show before. His name is George Santos. You might have heard of him before. And he is nice enough to be joining us right now on the program. George, I do appreciate you coming back and being with us. How are you?
Brian, my friend, how are you? It's great to be with you and your audience again. My favorite non-echo chamber show on radio. How about that?
Well, I appreciate you saying that, George. You've made the rounds, right? You've done Dr. Phil. You've been on CNN. Is there any show that you haven't done yet in the last couple weeks?
Pushing the limits.
That's true.
Here I am.
That's true. So I have a lot of questions to get with you, George, in a short period of time. I've heard rumors that Elise Stefanik was one of the people and one of the reasons why you were not pardoned sooner. Do you have, I don't know if that's a rumor, if that's true or not. Do you know if that's the case? And do you think that she was trying to block your quote unquote pardon? Do you know anything about that?
I think that's a silly thing to even suggest. I don't think that Congresswoman has even the time to focus on this. She's so busy right now focusing on trying to save the state of New York and mounting a gubernatorial race. Let me put it this way. There's a lot of rumors out there of a lot of different things. And at the end of the day, they all come down to political assassination. As you know, Republicans are not like Democrats most of the times. We tend to kind of go at each other a little bit internally. So there's a lot of people trying to throw each other under the bus. It is factually inaccurate, and I'm sorry that that was even posed as a situation. I don't think this has anything to do with somebody stalling or somebody advocating. I think the president does what he thinks is right when he thinks it's right, when he wants to do it.
Understood.
No one can make President Trump do really anything that he doesn't want to do or stop him from doing something he wants to.
I get that. You're right. Ultimately, Donald Trump was the one who had to sign off on this. But do you find it a little bit strange that he's now saying that there are certain obviously he knows who you are, but there are certain people that he's done business with, people that have put hundreds of millions of dollars into his crypto situation, and he's now claiming the other day that he doesn't know who this guy is? Do you find that trouble?
So I think it's I think folks are you're referencing to the 60 Minutes, right, interview.
Yeah,
you're a smart guy, and I know snark, and I know something called being condescending and being facetious. And if you didn't see that, I'm disappointed at you, Brian.
Well, I think he was lying. I think he absolutely knows who this guy is.
No. I think if you remember when President Biden was pressured on some of the pardons he had done, and he has had, I think he was literally trolling 60 Minutes, and I thought it was quite funny. I said, oh, he just did what Joe Biden did, and he expected to see what the reaction was. Now, look, we can all agree the merits of whatever, you want to criticize that. It's within your right. But I saw it for what it was. I saw it President Trump just being like, oh, you accepted Biden's answer. Let me give you the same exact answer and see where this goes. And I thought it was brilliant.
I hear you, but I guess when hundreds of millions of dollars are put into his crypto business, a lot of people, and then all of a sudden, a few months later, he gets a pardon. A lot of people would call that the definition of corruption. And it didn't seem like you wanted to answer the question truthfully, George.
I think it's the same can be said, right? When tens of millions of dollars are put into President Biden's son, Hunter Biden, with no experience all across Eurasia, and President Biden pardons him and says it's all a hoax. It's the same thing. We can use the same talking points to the previous administration. So I hate going on the back and forth. I'm not making excuses for anybody. I'm not here to judge anybody, but I'm just here to point out that the same case can be made for President Biden, and nobody seems to like it when I do that.
So, George, speaking to you, I was on the radio and I said, I don't think you deserve to be in solitary confinement. I said that when you were behind bars. At the same time, though, I don't know if you agree with me on this, but I think you've talked about this. You were ordered to pay back in restitution $374,000. Now, obviously, you're pardoned legally.
I'm not pardoned. I'm commuted. Just
correct.
Yeah, I'm
legally,
still a felon.
Understood, but legally, you don't have to pay that back, correct?
Yes, correct. But I've been asked this many times now, and a big part of redemption and starting over is making sure that we square away the past. Now, obviously, I don't have the means today, and I am working towards that to reestablish myself. I just got out of prison not even 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks tomorrow. So it's been 20 days, and I am working towards just reestablishing myself, getting my footing. But I have made a commitment, not just to myself, but to my legal team and to the entire country, that in order to show real, redemption and moving forward, I have committed that even though I don't have to, I will make best efforts in the absolute best time I can as a human being to make those payments. The only issue we have is there is no legal avenue to do so. So that is something that's still being explored. We'll figure something out. And if it turns out that let's say the government says, well, we can't do this legally, we'll just take the money and perhaps give it to a charity. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But the accountability that everybody wants, I will make sure to deliver it in a very public way. The same way that my unraveling was very public, I have made it my, redemption and my desire to move forward and atone and work for the greater good very public. And that's why you're going to continue to see me having these conversations and answering these questions.
Well, if in fact you do that, I will be the first person to say I think that's commendable. And I think that is the right thing to do, George. I really do. If you're just joining us, George Santos on the show with us, just got a pardon, literally, or commuted, sentence, I apologize, several.
Commutation, not a pardon.
Correct. Several weeks ago. So is there any truth to the rumor? And I understand that Donald Trump ultimately is the guy who made the decision. Nobody forced him to. But I've heard rumors that Marjorie Taylor Greene absolutely on your side, that got into the president's ear and was on your side and had conversations with him about this. I'm sure there's other Republicans that have done that as well, but it seems like Marjorie Taylor Greene, at least from what it appears, played a large role in this. Is there any truth to that?
No question, Marjorie is a very dear friend, and no question, Marjorie's had my back when many others walked away. That is absolutely factual. But most importantly, that I think we should pay attention to is the fact that, not one human being is going to be credited. It takes a team, right? It takes a team of my husband, my attorney, my sister. They were on the phone. They were asking, they were working this up, especially when I started being treated super unfairly in a degrading, inhumane fashion for absolute all the wrong reasons. I mean, under the guises of, protective custody, I was tortured for 41 days. So I think a lot of people got to the conclusion that, this is wrong. The sentence was overbearing. And then on top of it, you have this insane treatment. So back to your question is, thank you, Marjorie, for being my friend and for proving me wrong that in DC, you can actually make friends and you don't just need to have dogs to be friends. But most importantly, I don't think she's the only one to credit. A lot of people helped and a lot of people came together to help me. And whether it's the staff who were writing the paperwork and the assistants running around and crossing T's and dotting I's, to my husband, to my attorney, Joe Murray, and to my sister, who were also, living in prison essentially with me. They were in prison as much as I was. So I think it took a village, but it's not a secret that she supported me and spoke directly to the president. She made that very public herself.
You're close with Marjorie Taylor Greene. So my question to you is, in the last few months or so, she seems to be very outspoken against Republicans like Mike Johnson. She's even criticized Donald Trump when it comes to the Epstein files. Why has Marjorie Taylor Greene, speaking to a different tune recently? Why do you think that is? You know Marjorie Taylor Greene very well.
I've known Marjorie for 5 years, and I don't think Marjorie started playing or speaking to a different tune. I think people started paying attention to what she's saying because she's not changed. I think people have decided to stop the sensationalism and listening to her, and they're just like, wait, we could get behind that, because everybody wanted to label her as this crazy rural woman from the mountains of Georgia, when in reality, she's just a very normal, even-keeled person. And I don't see the change people talk about. I see the same Marjorie I met 5 years ago in congressional orientation in 2020. So she's speaking her mind. And the one thing I always found commendable about Marjorie is she is one of President Trump's biggest supporters. But at the same time, if she finds something he does that she needs to criticize, she's criticized him. And I think to some folks, they believe that you can't be a supporter without criticism, and that's not true. I've criticized in the past things that I disagreed with. I mean, but we're not out there lambasting or making absurd allegations against the president. We're simply disagreeing with him, and that's okay. You can disagree with the president. He allows disagreement. He encourages to be challenged, for those of you who don't know. So I think this is very normal for Marjorie, and it's no secret that she's unsatisfied with Republican leadership in the House.
You really think that, though, George, that Donald Trump totally welcomes people to disagree with him? Because it appears to me, from an outsider looking in, anybody that disagrees with him, he threatens them if they have any power at all. He threatens the media. He calls us the enemy within. I think if you disagree with Donald Trump on anything, eventually he's going to come after you in one way or another. You really think that he welcomes people to criticize him?
I disagree. President Trump is very, very keen on agreeing to disagree, and to having it challenges him. It gives him the ability to negotiate better. The only way you become such a great negotiator like President Trump has been, from the art of the deal all the way to becoming the president of the United States, and throughout these last 38 years that we followed this very public career of Donald Trump, it's very simple. The man takes his critics face on and head on and doesn't back down. But if you pay attention to the result, he will find common ground and try to negotiate for a solution. So I think the same can be said. I'm going to go very basic here. When he was building Trump Tower on Fifth Avenue, he said he would only build it if he can buy the air rights to the Tiffany building. And until then, until he secured that, he wouldn't do it. Guess what? The Tiffany building had no ability to raise their building because they're a historic landmark. So common sense, but there was pushback at the time because people wanted to create the illusion of, he's a bully. No, he's a visionary. He's smart. So the reality of the entire thing is Donald Trump is perceived as a person who runs by dictator rule, which is absolutely false. He runs by collaborative rule in a very democratic way. And Does he has his opinions? Of course he does. But I think he is a man who is absolutely reasonable, very generous, and absolutely open to working with people, especially his critics. He's worked with them before for 4 years, and here he is doing it again.
So why are we in a government shutdown still, and why are Republicans and Mike Johnson refusing to even speak with Chuck Schumer or Hakeem Jeffries when they've asked time and time again? If he's such a brilliant negotiator, why can't he work with the other side? If he's such a brilliant negotiator, why is the war in Ukraine still going on, a war that he said would be over in 24 hours? If he's such a brilliant negotiator, why is there no peace in the Middle East still when he said there was peace there and the war was over? If he's such a brilliant negotiator, why can't he negotiate with Democrats?
I believe that to suggest that the war in Israel and Gaza has not de-escalated and come down severely is not fair. I think
they broke
the
ceasefire, didn't they?
Of course, but that's the point. The president can bring the horses to water, but then to force them to drink, I mean, he did his best, and I think he did a phenomenal job. And let's not forget the ability that he has had to put Arab nations to side with the U.S. and Israel, like the Abraham Accords and all of that. So President Trump has a great history, in my opinion, much better than everyone he's succeeded in the Middle East. That's by far the best Israel Middle East policies. As far as, and you gave me a lot, as far as negotiating with Chuck Schumer, I don't understand why there needs to be negotiation. Chuck Schumer is refusing to vote for the same exact CR he has voted 19 times previously up until this time. So the point is there's no real negotiation there. Chuck Schumer is holding the American people hostage. He's keeping food from babies. He's keeping food from elderly. He's keeping people away from resources because he wants to spend an additional $1 trillion and have no oversight on whether illegals receive those benefits. Americans 100% back cutting waste, fraud, and abuse from being spent, from resources being spent on illegals. Matter of fact, 63% of voters, according to the Quinnipiac poll that came out last week on CNN, said they support the shutdown because it's about cleaning up public corruption. Now, I understand that that poll was a snapshot in time and prior to it affecting EBT, and I'm sure that would change. But I want you to remember, Chuck Schumer and Senate Democrats are keeping food from children and elderly who cannot otherwise afford to feed themselves because he wants to focus and put illegals first ahead of them. So that is really the reality. This is the same exact CR, Brian, that I was there in Congress when it was voted on, and I voted against it. I have voted against this CR 4 times in my 11 months in Congress. And I'm telling you, it is the same exact CR Democrats have time and time again voted for. So to say that it's Donald Trump and not negotiating, there's nothing to negotiate. It's the same CR. It's the same continued resolution. I
understand, but I think you have to find a way to at least sit at the table and speak. And it doesn't seem like they're doing.
Brian, let me ask you this: do you think President Trump needs to sit at the table and twist arms for people to vote for something that they voted for 19 times in a row?
When the answer is yes, when it comes to a lot of families right now that are starving and people that are living paycheck to paycheck, worried about losing their medical coverage and their food stamps, yes. Bill Clinton was a master at, say what you want about Bill Clinton, but he was able to work with the other side. When you have Mike Johnson and Donald Trump that are refusing to do so, and in my personal opinion, this is where we disagree, using food stamps, weaponizing food stamps, which is exactly what Donald Trump is doing. We know that there is money there to help people, and I understand that the local states are trying to allocate funds to keep people on the food stamps, and I think that's great. But I don't think this is something that you can mess with, regardless of whose fault it is. I would respectfully disagree with you on that, blaming it all on Chuck Schumer.
Brian, as a child, I was a recipient of food stamps. My family was a recipient. We were recipients of food stamps. You're going to find no better advocate and no more sympathetic person in the right to talk about food stamps in a favorable light and how it actually kept people fed and not hungry, like myself. But what I'm trying to say is to say that Donald Trump is weaponizing it, it is wrong. President Trump has said very clear to Chuck, fund a short stopgap and we'll negotiate this later in the year. So Chuck Schumer has now decided to keep the government shut down 5 weeks instead of allowing this to keep going, put the CR down and negotiate for this on December 27th when it matters, and then actually work on that, additional spending that he wants. But Chuck Schumer and Senate Democrats chose to say, no, we want it now because we want it now, not then. And lastly, on Ukraine, it is very hard to end a war when you have a president in President Zelensky who A, doesn't seem to believe in elections, B, doesn't seem to want to actually negotiate at all with Putin. And again, and I hate Putin. I hate Vladimir Putin. I am actually one of his biggest critics in the House in 2023. I've called him from murderer to genocidal murder to whatever you want to call it, war criminal. I hate the man. The man should have not been in office. I mean, 20 somewhat years as president of a country, that's abhorrent. But the point being here is when President Trump has a summit with Vladimir Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, criticizes the summit itself. This was a couple of months back during the late spring, early summer. And then now when President Trump is trying to bring a deal to the table, Zelensky seems hell-bent on not playing ball. So I mean,
why would you give Russia anything when they're the one who invaded you in the first place? Thousands of innocent people, women and children, have died. Why would you agree to Vladimir Putin's demands and no concessions, Russia not giving up anything? Why would you reward an evil, murderous dictator for invading your country? Like, I don't understand. Why would Zelensky agree to that? Why you wouldn't agree to that?
I mean, I wouldn't, but let's just go historically here, right? Ukrainians have been ceding to Russia since Bush. Let's talk about the facts, right? And then you had Crimea under Obama. I mean, so all of a sudden now, during Joe Biden and President Trump, this war started because of poor leadership from the United States in President Biden. Now, President Trump is tasked with fixing the mess, which he has put best efforts forward to do so. But now he's finding himself in a situation where Ukraine, who was okay with ceding land to Russia during President Bush and President Obama's time, now finds a very difficult time ceding the Donbass region, which I'm against. Don't get me, Brian, I'm not making an excuse here for Putin. I'm just telling you, I'm calling the shots for what they are. It's a very interesting situation where it was okay to cede territory under Obama and under Bush, but it's not okay under Trump or Biden. So I don't know what the situation is in Ukraine. All I can say is that Americans should stop subsidizing that war. It is not our problem. We have done more than enough and more than our fair share. And I think it's time that our partners in Europe start picking up the tab for Ukraine.
I know you got to run, George. Just a couple more quick questions for you, and I appreciate.
Always, I will never run away from you, Brian.
Well, I appreciate that. You're one of you that would say that. I appreciate that, George. You talk about terrorism, and I have a big problem, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this. Donald Trump allowing Qatar to have a military base on American soil when back in 2017, Donald Trump is the guy that said they are harboring terrorists. And they do. That's what Qatar does. They harbor terrorists, they support Hamas, and they fund Hamas. And now that he receives a $400 million jumbo jet as a gift, and he gets a $5.5 billion resort over there, okay? And somehow we should be okay with that. You know that if Barack Obama did something like this and allowed them to have a military base on American soil, Republicans would have a you-know-what storm. They would be going nuts. You can't be okay with this.
Maybe I wasn't prepared for this. I have only been out of prison for 20 days, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. But Donald Trump allowed a military. I understand. Donald Trump is allowing a military base. Pete Hegseth made the announcement, a Qatar military base. So there's going to be Qatar pilots on American soil in Idaho. It's going to be in Idaho.
I mean, look, I have my opinions, and I've said this is something that I wouldn't be too keen on personally. I don't think we should have foreign militaries based in the United States, but I do appreciate it when foreign countries and nations allow us to have our bases there. Call me America first there, pretty squared root, a little hypocritical too. But if I'm being fair, I mean, I think that's a interesting development, not one that I would probably agree with. But then again, I said I don't always agree with everything the president says or does. Now, I will say this. Qatar has a history in the past, before normalized ties with the United States, of being a problematic, geopolitical adversary for America. I do believe that has improved, and a great show of that was when Qatar literally expelled out of their country Hamas leadership recently due to the ongoing conflict in Israel and Gaza. So I think they've showed goodwill. As far as the airplane, Qatar, we appreciate for the very nice artifact that's going to sit in the presidential library and will never be flown. Thank you for the gift.
George, do you think Donald Trump is in the Epstein files?
I do not. I think it's preposterous to suggest, and it's also ignorant and politically. How can I say that? It's politically illiterate to suggest that, because
And why won't he release the files?
Well, let me finish my point. Let's just go back to this. If he was in the Epstein files, why wouldn't Merrick Garland, the most weaponized attorney general in the United States history, not weaponize it against him? I mean, he didn't stop. He raided his house, Mar-a-Lago. He put the man through hell with Jack Smith as a special counsel. Every single aspect of the Justice Department was fired up against Donald Trump. So I'm just being very honest with you.
I got an answer for you, because I think
what's the answer?
I think there are also prominent people on the left that they were protecting. I think it's both sides. I think there's prominent people on the left and there's prominent people on the right. And I absolutely think Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. He's called people like me and Republicans stupid, and people like your friend Marjorie Taylor Greene. He's called us all stupid for even bringing this up and wanting the Epstein files to be released, which I think is absurd. It was his best friend. According to Jeffrey Epstein, his best friend for 10 years, he's seen in videos and pictures at all these parties everywhere. He was on the Epstein flight log list at least 7 times. We learned that in Mexico.
Wait. He was on the Epstein flight log list. Let's clarify for the listeners. Yes, going from Teterboro to Palm Beach with his wife, Marla Maples at the time, the nanny, and Tiffany Trump, who was an infant. Those were the 3 round trip flights, were very common here in New York. As a New Yorker, I can say this. We hitch rides with our friends with planes. I don't have a plane to share, but billionaires and millionaires love sharing that. And I've been on plenty of flights with millionaires and billionaires, and I'm not going to no miscreant island. Okay. I
know we're pressed for time here. Let's just say you're 100% right on that. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Why would they send Ghislaine Maxwell to a Club Med facility? Why would they meet with her and then treat her like gold? She gets pretty much preferential treatment. She I know you didn't. She gets food delivered to her room like it's room service. She has gets to play tennis. This is unprecedented that you have one of the biggest sex traffickers on the planet that is sent to basically a Club Med facility where she can play tennis. She gets visitation rights and room service to her cell. Why would the Trump administration put her on a pedestal and treat her this way, George? What would be
There's no real room service. I want to clarify that also.
You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying.
Inmates tend to be very cheap people, and they whore themselves out just for to proximity. People would bring stuff to me, fold my laundry, wash my laundry for me, not at my request, but they see me carrying my bag. Oh, I got this for you, and then I come back and be folded on my bed. So look, this is the advantage, I guess, of being a person in the media or famous or whatever you want to call it. Now, as far as Ghislaine Maxwell, I looked at this, and she was eligible to be transferred to the facility she's in per BOP protocol. So if she puts in a transfer and she gets transferred, I mean, I can't. I'm telling you, I can't be the judge of that. I can tell you this: I'm actively advocating and currently speaking directly. I was just recently on October 31st, while all of you were trick-or-treating, and I bet you, most of you, especially you were tricking. I was at the DOJ speaking to BOP leadership about prison reform. That's what I chose to do with my Halloween. Okay, so I just want to say this very clear. There needs to be changes in the system. I understand, but nothing that is happening with Ghislaine Maxwell in prison is extraordinary. I mean, this is P. Diddy is being treated like a celebrity in Brooklyn, and now he's either. And so is Sam Bankman-Fried and Miles Go. I can talk about so many high-profile inmates who live like pretty high on the hog. I was the exception. The only thing I ever got done for me was my laundry while I was in prison for the 43 out of the 84 days that I wasn't in the shoe while I was there being tortured. So being very pragmatic with you, everything that points back to Ghislaine, there's nothing non-protocol. There's no violation of protocol. She's in the prison. I mean, let me make this very clear. Yeah. Let me make this very clear. Club Med, Club Fed, whatever you want to call it, it's just a way that people say it to minimize it. It's people who've been to prison who don't want to say I was in prison. It is very much prison. It is very tough. It is very harsh. There's no such thing as a resort like people like to say. And I think that is the reason why prisons are so bad, because we have the American people contributing to downplaying the crimes committed against civil rights in prison by wardens like the warden who ran my facility.
Yeah, I'm not defending the way you were treated. All I'm saying is one of the biggest sex traffickers on the planet probably shouldn't be allowed to walk outside whenever she wants to and play tennis whenever she wants to. I find that repulsive, and I blame the Trump administration for that. But I know you got to go, George. I just want to ask you one more question. And I know you just got out 3 weeks ago. Do you see yourself ever running for office ever again?
No, I have no desire. I mean, look, I love public policy. I love being in the thick of it. Let's not kid ourselves. So don't think that I'm going to go away from having an opinion, but to actually put my name on a ballot and run again, it came at a very high cost because of my own doing, my own poor choices to my family. And I would never put my husband through it again, my sister, my niece, my dad, my aunt. They're not getting younger. I don't think it's the right thing. And the reality is, I think what I've learned while I was in prison and what I've learned while I was in Congress really shaped me to change a little bit of what I think my priorities in my life are going to be. So I don't foresee at all me going back into elected office.
Are you still Jewish?
I'm always going to be Jewish in my heart. And also, look, and true story, look at this. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Always on me. You can't take that away from me.
On the record, you didn't go to Baruch University, though. And you weren't a volleyball player, just for the record. Okay.
No,
okay. I'm glad we cleared that up, George. I'm glad we cleared that up.
Hey, so we can spike a conversation any day.
George, in seriousness, I know you made your mistakes, and I certainly don't defend that. But I also didn't like the way you were treated behind bars, and I did speak out against that. And I always do appreciate it when you do take the time to come on and have a good conversation with me. I do appreciate that. And I do wish you well. And yes, I do hope in due time you do pay the victims here. I think that would be the right thing to do. And I'm glad to hear you talk about that. And I hope you do that, because if you do that, I will commend you for it. Because I do, like I said, I do think that's the right thing to do.
I appreciate that, Brian. Thank you for having me. Thanks for keeping it as always tough and fun.
Thank you. And I'll say hello to your boy, Tim Pool, tomorrow. I'm going to play some poker with him tomorrow night.
Don't worry. Oh, great.
We're going to have some fun. All right, George. Thanks for coming on, my friend.
Take care. Oh, by the way, make sure you give Woodrow Johnson a hard time for me.
He's coming up next. I'll tell him you said hello, George. I appreciate the time. Thank you, George.
Bye-bye.
I appreciate you. That's George Santos, everybody. Listen, obviously, I don't condone the things he did. Obviously, I disagree with him politically on a lot of different issues. But at least he's willing to talk about it. At least he's willing to come on the show, which I do respect. If he does pay the restitution, which, by the way, legally, he does not have to do. But if he does pay back the money that he owes, which is somewhere, according to the courts, $374,000, I will commend him for doing so, because I do think that is the right thing to do. George Santos, everybody, we do appreciate him taking the time to join us. All right, we're going to take a quick break. You heard George just talking about this guy. He's joining us next. He is the chairman of the Nevada Young Republicans. He is also a political strategist. That's right. Woodrow Johnson is going to be joining us in Studio Nets. I know it's going to be a good debate, and we're going to take calls. We'll be back in 90 seconds. It's Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premier Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Who would have thought there'd be so many kids playing ice hockey in the desert? Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, founded by Gina Yusufzai 8 years ago, made it possible for families who can't afford the equipment and fees. Donate today at www.hockeyforkids.org and help us continue making a difference. Join us in supporting Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, where every kid gets a shot at the starting line. Just a reminder, our website is www.hockeyforkids.org.
You are way too smart, way too talented, way too good to be where you are. You are meant to be making way more money, feel way hotter in your body, and having way more fun. Hi, I'm Nicole Mitchell, and I'm a life coach. I help you get hotter and richer. If that is what you're looking for, you can find me at NicoleMitchell.com. My name, Nicole, is with a K, NICOLE, MITCHELL.com. You can reach out to me on my website or on Instagram, and I will be happy to be in touch and figure out what you're looking for and how I can support you in getting there.
Have you ever dreamed of having your own radio show or a podcast, but just didn't think it was possible? Well, dreams can come true. Radio U. Radio U is a 5-day course that'll teach you how to acquire your dream show. We'll teach you how to host, how to write commercial, how to interview, how to market, how to write a contract, and most importantly, how to monetize your dream radio show. You'll learn from some of the best in the business with over 75 years in broadcast experience. You'll learn from people like me. And the best part, every single student will be live on the radio as part of the class. Plus, one student from each class will get their very own radio show. You'll be live on the air right here in Las Vegas. Radio U. The 5-day course is being offered at $699. For more information, give Radio U a call.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Thursday. Thank you so much for joining us. Leonard Cardinale is going to be filling in for me tomorrow, by the way. The reason why is I am flying out to D.C. tomorrow, and I'm going to be doing a live debate in D.C. with Myron Gaines, Tim Pool, Alex Stein, and a few other Trumpers, and they're all going to gang up against me. But you know what? That's the way I like it. So it's going to be a lot of fun. That's going to actually air on Saturday, and I'll probably play some excerpts on Monday. I'm also going to be doing the Piers Morgan show again next week. I don't know who I'm going to be debating there, but we'll see how that goes. I talk about healthcare on this show all the time, right? And open annual enrollment is going now through December 7th. And I am so glad that I have teamed up with these great people at Chapter because they give free advice. They save people upwards of $1,100 on average a year. And if you're on the right plan, they're going to tell you you're on the right plan. You see the number on the bottom of the screen, 212-461-4078. Give them a call, or you can check the URL there on the bottom, which is askchapter.org/limits, completely free. The average time that you're going to be speaking with them is somewhere around 20 minutes or so or less. And it's free. So you have nothing to lose. Give them a call, 212-461-4078. My good trusted partners for free and unbiased Medicare help, Chapter. All right. So as you all know, I just interviewed George Santos. We're supposed to be getting Marjorie Taylor Greene on the show next week. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I can't believe it, but I've been really agreeing a lot with Marjorie Taylor Greene. This guy's been on the program before. He is the chairman of the Nevada Young Republicans. He's also a political strategist. Woodrow Johnson joins us right now in studio. Woodrow, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. How are you? Looking spiffy, by the way.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on again.
Yes.
I really appreciate it. You know, it's funny. I was reflecting on my last appearance, and and the criticism I got from a lot of my friends on the right is they said I was too nice to you.
Oh, don't be nice. I don't want you to be nice. I hope you don't think I was too rude to you.
No,
that's not my intention in having these debates. You know, I mean, I could have called George Santos a lot of names, and I'm sure some of my listeners would have loved it, but then he's not going to come back, and I want to get his thoughts on some issues. So that I'm not going to get anywhere doing it. Now, if you were Myron Gaines, that would be different. I would not want to be nice to him, but you're a nice guy, and I don't have anything personally against you. I've gotten into it with you a few times on social media, you know, all fun and games. But
I feel like you're a different person on social media sometimes.
I can be, well, I mean, when callers call in, I can get pretty harsh with them as well.
Yeah,
but that's when that comes out. But if someone's willing to take the time, like George Santos just did, or anybody, quite frankly, Caroline Leavitt, they're willing to take the time to come on the show as a guest, then I'm going to treat them with respect, even though we might disagree on issues. That's the way I am. But if somebody disrespects me, and I've had that before, where I've had guests come on this show and they've been very disrespectful, then of course I'm going to defend myself. But I have no reason to be like that with you. But hey, if some of your Republican friends think you should be nasty to me, I mean, that's hey, take it for what it's worth. But I want to ask you this to start.
Sure.
Since you're the chairman of the Nevada Young Republicans, we saw this, and this is not the most important issue I want to talk to you about.
Sure.
But you see this young Republican group that have said just awful things on social media, praising Adolf Hitler, making anti-Semitic comments, using the N-word. I'm not saying every young Republican has those sorts of feelings, but can you understand why a lot of people got very upset at that?
I definitely can. And look, there's nothing I could say about this issue that hasn't already been said. And frankly, I mean, I can't be made to answer for every bad thing a Republican's ever done, just the same way you can't be.
But obviously you're willing to call it out.
Yeah, for sure. And look, within, I just became chairman like 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. Right. And, one thing we're going to institute with the leaders within our organization is a code of conduct. We have to, especially when we represent this organization, we have to hold ourselves to a higher standard. I can't account for everything everyone does. And frankly, look, the Democrats didn't spend all day condemning Jay Jones. They just didn't. Right. And I think what Jay Jones said was irreprehensible, if I'm using that word correctly.
Reprehensible.
Yes, yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And the Democrats didn't spend all day condemning Jay Jones, and I'm not going to do the same thing condemning some young Republicans from the other side of the country.
They're both horrible.
Well, sure,
it's both horrible.
But I am not going to. You're not going to catch me on this platform, spending all day attacking it. Democrats didn't do that. I shouldn't be made to do that either, and neither should other Republicans.
I think everybody should. As I know that you had met Charlie Kirk. You've spent some time with Charlie Kirk. When I was on the air, that happened. I thought it was horrible what happened to him. Murder's terrible. It should always be called out. And I don't like it when Republicans say elected Democrat officials are celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk, because it's just not true. Now you'll get some buffoons, and I think that's what you are. If you go on social media and you're like laughing about it and you think it's funny and you're jumping up and down about it. But I didn't hear one Democrat elected official celebrate the death of Charlie Kirk. Did you?
Nothing comes to mind. I definitely saw some prominent Democrats, some high level activists, that sort of thing. But as far as elected officials, no, I didn't see any elected officials do it.
Yeah,
they're usually a little more careful.
Right. So I would never condemn. I would never approve of or defend any sort of political violence on either side of the aisle. Mm-hmm. But I have been pretty straightforward, and I said this on Tim Pool's show a few weeks ago.
Sure.
I don't want to celebrate his life because I don't think he was a good person, and I gave a lot of reasons why I felt the way I felt. But that doesn't mean I'm, as you know, celebrating his death either. They're different things.
Let me ask you, Brian. Have you ever called any Republican a Nazi or a fascist?
No, I don't like using it. Well, Donald Trump has. He called Kamala Harris a fascist.
He called her a fascist
multiple times on the campaign tour.
Okay.
I think Nazi is probably a worse term than fascist.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like throwing around the word Nazi. I don't think that's, the Nazis were responsible for killing 6-7 million Jews.
Right.
As much as I hate Donald Trump, I don't think that Donald Trump is a Nazi. I don't think that's appropriate.
And hey, we agree on something. And here's
but Donald Trump called Kamala Harris fascist. Do you think that's wrong also?
I mean, I'd have to see it.
You're not aware of that? Okay.
I'm not aware of that.
Okay.
So,
all right. I've played that on my show.
Yeah. Brian, I like your show, but I don't watch it every day.
I don't think you do, but I'm surprised that because I hear a lot of Republicans complain that Democrats raising the temperature by using the term fascist when Donald Trump on the campaign tour multiple times called Kamala Harris a fascist.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just want consistency. That's all I want. I don't think anybody should be calling anybody a Nazi. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I've been very clear on that, even though I say that Stephen Miller sometimes uses the same or very similar verbiage that a Nazi would use. I think Stephen Miller is a despicable human being. But I don't like the term Nazi. I've been very consistent on that. But with that being said, we were told that the left did this to Charlie Kirk. The left did this.
Mm-hmm.
And I hear that all the time. They did it. Eric Trump. They tried to kill my father. Republicans everywhere. They killed Charlie Kirk. Are you one of those people that uses that word? They did it.
Well, I think it's pretty undeniable that someone who was motivated by left-wing ideology definitely.
Well, we don't know that for sure because it hasn't been proven in a court of law. But even if that was true, that doesn't mean they did it. He did it.
Okay.
Right? Sure. Is that fair?
I mean, the individual who did it,
Mm-hmm.
but I would say that he was motivated by left-wing ideology. And I think that
you think left-wing ideology is killing people that you don't like?
Not that I don't like. I think left-wing is killing people that I do like.
Who? Okay, so
Charlie Kirk.
But we don't know, for fairness. I don't think that's a left-wing ideology. I think there are some lunatics out there, right?
Okay.
I think we could agree on that.
Sure,
but I don't think the Democrat ideologies kill people that you don't like. I don't agree with that. Just like I would say I don't think the right-wing ideology is kill people you don't like. I wouldn't characterize the entire right as beating police officers like they did on January 6th, and I certainly wouldn't characterize the left as an ideology. Listen, the good news is, and it's horrible what happened to Charlie Kirk, but the good news is we're going to find out in a court of law if that's true.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't like speculating on that, right? It's like, and you're entitled to your opinions,
Sure.
but we hear about the transgender boyfriend, which to me is completely irrelevant. I don't know why every time there's a mass shooting, it seems like Republicans want to obsess over the fact, oh, is this a transgender? I just don't understand that stuff. This sounds like a crazy lunatic 22-year-old who took an innocent person's life. It's horrible. Should have never happened.
Mm-hmm.
It's terrible. But I don't hear Republicans talking about solutions. They just blame the left. Why don't we talk about gun control? Why don't we talk about how this person was radicalized? Why aren't we talking about how easy access this person had to a gun? Like, I don't want this to happen again, Woodrow. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't hear solutions from Republicans.
Well, I think everything you just said is not really a true solution. I mean, if you want to talk about, we can have a debate about guns if you want, right? I mean,
I'm happy to do that with you.
You
sure.
know, it looks like that, again, I mean, you know, this is all, it's all going to come out in court, but it looks like it was a bolt action rifle.
Mm-hmm.
And even most stringent gun control that has been proposed wouldn't have banned that rifle unless you want to get rid of all weapons altogether.
Well, for speaking as gun control as a whole,
yes,
I would say a law put in place may not have stopped the killing of Charlie Kirk. I'm not going to say it could have, but if we're going to speak about gun control as a whole,
well, but you said you're talking about solutions, and now you're bringing up something else.
I brought up multiple things.
Right?
How did he get the gun?
Right.
Where did he get it? Did he have any mental issues in the past? I'm sure that'll come up. That's one of many issues. We need to find out if, in fact, he was radicalized. How was he radicalized?
Right.
What got him in the mind frame to do what he did? How do we prevent this from happening again? So there's a lot of different things that I think need to be put to the table. But just to blame the left for this, I find that to be ridiculous. That's all.
And here's where I expect a lot of pushback from you. I believe that if you do not believe you are the gender you are mentally ill. Right. I think that is a mental illness. I think transgenderism is a mental illness. And I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of hate for that. But that's what I believe. And
okay, but what does that have to do with the shooting?
I'll tell you exactly what it is. The way our society has gone, it's coddled this, and we have to say that being transgender is normal, and we try to normalize it, and we can't treat it as a mental illness anymore because that's transphobic. That's how people treat that. So, this person who very may well have, could have identified mental health issues, transgenderism, but
he wasn't transgender though.
No, he's into transgenders.
Okay, so because if you're attracted to a transgender, that means you're transgender and mentally ill?
I mean, I would say yes, absolutely.
So if you're a man or a woman and you're attracted to someone who might be a trans woman or trans man, that means you're mentally ill.
I mean, that's the viral moment, right? That's what I'm saying.
Okay, yeah, I think that I'm not a doctor. You're not a doctor.
I'm not.
I don't think you're necessarily mentally ill if you're attracted to someone of the same sex or if you're attracted to someone that is transgender. That's my personal opinion. So, yeah, I would respectfully disagree with you on that. But I would also say that I don't think that had any bearing in this shooting. There are plenty of people that are attracted to transgenders that don't go out and shoot and kill innocent people. In fact, transgenders, I think there's
plenty of mentally ill people who don't go out and shoot people.
Well, yeah, of course.
There's varying, in fact, I think people who are mentally ill aren't necessarily bad people either, right? I mean, they just have to be treated and they have to, be treated.
You know what I think is mentally ill?
Right.
When somebody like Nancy Mace, who I think is absolutely mentally ill, tweets over 200 times about going into female bathrooms and there's a transgender person in there. And many of these Republicans think that if you're transgender, you're going into these restrooms and getting the snip so that you can molest somebody. I think you're mentally ill and you're disturbed if you believe that. I also think you're disturbed if you think that being gay is a sin. I also think that you're mentally disturbed if you think more guns make us safer, because the facts just don't add up to that. And it's just not true. I think you're mentally disturbed if you attack someone based on their skin color. I think you're mentally disturbed if you support Donald Trump and ICE agents around the country, in some cases not identifying themselves, tackling grandmothers and people in front of Home Depot and outside of courtrooms. That's what I think is mentally disturbed. I don't think you're mentally disturbed if you have a sexual attraction to a human being that you might not be attracted to, because that's really what we're talking about here. I don't think you're mentally disturbed if somebody is sexually attracted to someone. You're not. Listen, I talk to a lot of women that think Donald Trump is grotesque, but I wouldn't say that a woman that slept with Donald Trump is mentally disturbed. I would say maybe she had ulterior motives, like money, but I wouldn't say they're mentally, that's the point I'm trying to get at here. I don't know.
I mean, look, let me deconstruct something you just said. Because you said that anyone who thinks that being gay is a sin is.
I think you're a bigot. Yeah, I think you're a bigot.
Well, I mean, look, pretty much every major religion, that is the case, including, I believe, the religion that you follow, right?
There are plenty of people that I know that are Jewish that are totally fine with gay marriage and they don't think it's a sin. There's plenty of Christians that I know that say to themselves, well, I wouldn't do it, but I'm totally okay with them doing it, and I won't treat them differently because their sexuality is different than me. Then
that's the Christian way. We shouldn't treat people differently.
Well, then why do so many Republicans vote against gay marriage? Well, I mean, if that's the case, Woodrow, then why are they against gay marriage? Why do they think it's a sin?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Why do they think it's a sin? Because that's what that's what we believe. That's a sincerely held.
Well, I mean, you could believe that all white people are bad people, and just because my religion tells me that doesn't make it right. I just think people hide behind their religion. I think Jesus's teachings, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not a very religious person, treat everybody as equals, regardless of skin color, regardless of poverty or how much money you have, regardless of sexuality. And I see a lot of people treating people differently because they're drag queens or because they're transgender or because they're gay. And that's not coming from the left. That's coming from the right. And yes, I'm going to be honest, I find that bigoted in nature. When you treat somebody differently because they're not like you, that makes you a bigot. Isn't that the definition of being a bigot? When you take a group of people and you judge an entire group of people that might not be like you, that you don't agree with, that are not breaking the law. Doesn't that make you a bigot?
I'm not sure I understand the question, because...
Well, when you judge a group of people because their sexuality is different than yours, and you treat them differently, and you attack them, you call them sinners, it affects your policy judgment, which many evangelical Republicans in office have voted against gay marriage. When it doesn't affect you at all, what about all the people out there that are on the right that are so concerned about calling somebody he or she? Okay, let me try to phrase this a different way. How do transgenders negatively affect you in your life, Woodrow? Do they, or do they at all?
So let me start off with, I'm a Catholic, right? And I have my own beliefs, right? And I've had this argument. My mom's gay, right? So I've had this argument with my mom plenty of times, right? And she argues with me the same way you do, right? It's like, and I said, listen, look, what happens between you is between you and God, but you can't force me to agree with it. Right.
I would never force you to agree.
But you said I'm a bigot because I believe that.
No, you can believe what you want to believe. I'm not saying you can't believe it, even though I disagree with you. What I'm saying is don't treat people differently.
I don't treat my mom differently. I love my mom.
I'm glad to hear that. But you're not a lawmaker. Right. I'm specifically talking about lawmakers and people that are against gay marriage, or people that don't think there should be a gay pride month. You know, and your mother would know this, I'm sure. I'm sorry we talked about this. The discrimination maybe that your mom has had to face in her life because she's gay. I don't want people treated differently because they're different than, say, somebody that's straight. I don't want people treated differently because their skin color is different. And that's listen, I lean very much to the left on social issues, and I would be the first person to admit that. And I'm sure your mother's talked to you about that. I don't know. We were talking about transgenders and the Charlie Kirk shooting, but I don't like the attacks on trans people. I don't believe trans women should be competing with other women on the playing field. But at the same time, why do people care so much if you call somebody or he or she? Why are Republicans obsessed with that?
Well, I mean, let's start off with what you just said. I mean, you agree that we shouldn't allow transgender, into women's sports,
correct?
And
because it's it's an advantage, and I think it's unfair
Yeah.
to women that are born naturally as females. Yes,
And
I do.
And so, I mean, like you answered the question you asked me earlier. I just think that and I'm sorry, I having a little bit of an ADD moment.
No, that's okay.
I
I have that very badly, by the way.
yeah. I'm sorry. What was the question again?
Well, we talked about gay marriage and all that
Right.
stuff, but I want to get back to the transgender
Sure.
stuff because we were discussing that when it comes to Charlie Kirk, and I think you would agree with me. Nothing's been proven in court. We don't know the exact reason why he did what he did. People talk about what was on the bullets, and people talk about here's where he was radicalized. We don't know what's real. We don't know what's fake.
Okay.
We have to wait and see. But when I hear about a mass shooting, and there have been like 400 mass shootings, it's just ridiculous. And I think 5 are too many. And Charlie Kirk was asked this question, and I agree with him. 5 are too many, but 5 transgender shooters. This isn't a transgender problem. It's an American problem. And for the most part, we have young white males that are committing these mass shootings at a very large, high percentage. And I do think it's a gun problem. I do think that's part of the problem. So let me propose to you some solutions, and you can tell me whether you agree with it or not. I think the age should be 18 to 21. That's number one.
It's already 18 to 21.
Well, in some cases,
it's 18 for a rifle, 21 for a
right.
handgun.
I don't think you should be allowed to purchase a weapon legally at the age of 18. I think you should be at least 21 years old.
Okay.
I also think that I understand that shooting a gun and owning a gun is a right. I get that. I understand driving a car is a privilege, but why is it when we drive a car, they check your medical records, they check your eyesight, you have someone that has to teach you how to drive the car? Sure. I think we should have at least a 2-hour class at a minimum. Teach someone how to shoot a weapon, teach someone how to store the weapon, teach someone how to be safe with the weapon. I don't think that's asking a lot. Give me a 2-hour class.
So one, let me start off
Sure.
with, I don't agree with you on the that we should raise the age from 18 to 21. I think the right to bear arms is a constitutional right. It is a natural right that is confirmed by the Constitution, and it's part of what has, frankly, made this country as free as it is. And I think it's part of the American heritage that we have. It's a unique thing for this country that no other country has. And so, especially if we're asking 18-year-olds, and in some cases in our history as young as 16, to serve in our military and carry a firearm in defense of our country.
What's the difference, though, for an 18-year-old that serves in the military and an 18-year-old that walks into a gun store?
I know what you're going to say.
What's the difference?
You're going to say it's the training, right?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big difference, don't you think?
And look, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. I'll agree with you on this. If we want to institute gun safety, firearm practice as part of the national curriculum, I'll agree with you on that.
Are you okay with us owning grenades and tanks and any type of machine weaponry? Obviously, some of that is illegal, but I mean, where do we?
It's actually easier to get a tank than it is to get a gun.
Perhaps it is, but it's illegal. An armed tanker is illegal.
You can get a tank,
but certain tanks, obviously, and grenades are illegal. Why do you need an assault weapon to defend yourself?
Well, what's an assault weapon, right? I mean,
well, we can get into the weeds on that. we can get into the weeds on what an assault weapon is. But the same weapons that were used on October 1 here, the same weapons that were used, similar weapons, Columbine in Buffalo, the Texas, El Paso, Walmart shooting. It seems like these are the types of weapons that can shoot as many people as possible in a short period of time. Why does an American need that? Why do we need that to defend ourselves? I want you to have the right, Woodrow, to defend yourself and buy weapons. And I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with some of these weapons being sold. I do have a problem with that.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm not sure which part you want me to deconstruct first.
Either one you want to. That's your choice.
I mean, like, what do you believe is a reasonable restriction? Because ultimately, when I have these conversations about gun control, and one, I get it, like I don't expect everyone to be an expert on firearms, but often it's difficult to have this conversation because they don't really understand the intricacies about how firearms.
You know what I say to people like that? When someone says, Brian, you don't know what you're talking about.
And I'm not accusing you.
No. I'm not saying you are. But in general, when people want to get into the weeds with me on what an assault weapon is, here's my response to that. Okay. You probably know a lot more about guns than me. Fair enough. Let's start here. Do you agree with me, Woodrow, that there's way too much gun violence in this country?
I think
way too many innocent people are dying.
I think one innocent person dying is too much.
I agree with you, but obviously, but would you agree with me? There's way too much gun violence in this country. There's a lot of gun violence in this country.
I think that violence is a problem, and I think attaching gun to it unnecessarily politicizes it.
So
yeah.
if somebody
I think-
walks into a school and kills 30 innocent kids with an AR-15, is it politicizing it, talking about the weapon that was used?
Absolutely, it's politicizing it, because if you look at other countries, people are getting stabbed, people are getting.
Can you name me a situation in the United States of America where 30 or 40 people were killed by a knife in our lifetime?
Not top of my head.
Because it hasn't happened. Because it hasn't happened. So
Right.
I don't think that's a fair equivalent. I'm talking
Right.
about guns that kill 20, 30 kids.
Okay.
So I don't think I'm politicizing it. I think I hope I want what you want, which is I don't want innocent people to die,
Right.
including our kids.
Mhm.
And it's a conversation I think that needs to be had.
Sure.
And you don't see. Now, you do this for a living. I mean,
Mhm.
you're a political strategist. I see a lot of these Republicans that you have represented in their commercials that brag about their guns
Mhm.
and say more guns make us safer. If we have 140 guns per 100 people in this country, if more guns made us safer, then we would be one of the safest countries in the world when it comes to gun control. So that's
We have lower violent crime than most places.
okay, but I'm talking about gun violence right now. I'm not talking
Okay,
about
well,
violent
Well,
crime
of
in
course,
general.
there's going to be more gun violence because there's more guns.
Okay, but then why do Republicans and some of your clients have said more guns make us safer? It's
Because
a ridiculous thing to say.
because they do. Because it does
No,
make.
What do you mean they do? 140 guns per 100 people. You just admitted to me that
Right.
we have more guns than almost any other country in the
Sure.
world.
But we have lower violent crime than most places.
Okay, but I'm talking about crime when it comes to guns. We're not talking about just in general violent crime.
Okay.
I'm talking about gun violence. I'm talking about people that die
Mhm.
and there's a gun involved. When Republicans say more guns make us safer, that would mean we would be one of the safest countries in the world when it comes to gun violence. And by the way, it's the opposite. It's the opposite.
Okay. I mean, first of all, the largest cause of death in the 20th century
Mhm.
was government.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
It was people who died when the communists took over China. It was people who died from the Holocaust. It was people who died from the various pogroms in Russia. I mean, we're talking like tens of millions of people here, and places where they have complete gun control, where no one is allowed to own a gun. The reason why we have a Second Amendment is to protect us from the government. That's why we have it.
Okay. I understand that.
Mhm.
But still, we have more guns than almost any other country in the world, and we have more
But you're looking at
gun violence than almost any other country in the world. If more guns made us safer, then it just
okay,
doesn't make sense.
and the UK has a lot more knife violence. Like it's, I mean, that's
Yeah, but how many mass shootings, how many mass knife killings are there in the
there's
UK?
a lot of there's
How
a lot
many?
of people,
I don't know.
I
How
don't know
many?
off the top of my head.
Okay, I can guarantee you it's nowhere near as many as the mass shootings and the gun violence that we have in the United States of America.
If you look at per capita, it's probably
Okay. What would you rather have? Somebody, God forbid, one of your kids in school, and by the way, God forbid, I don't want this
Sure.
to happen. But what would you rather have if you had to choose and a madman is in there and wants to kill as many innocent children as possible? Somebody with a knife or somebody with an AR-15?
you're actually more likely to survive a gunshot than a stabbing.
So you think if somebody went into a school
I mean, I don't
with a
want either to
knife,
happen.
obviously, we both agree on that.
Right.
You think if somebody went into a school with a knife, you think that would be more dangerous than somebody with thousands of rounds of ammunition or an AR-15?
I'm saying that in that situation, I would hope that our school is equipped with trained officers to prevent that from happening, and those trained officers should have firearms.
Okay, but that's a different topic, and we can talk about, okay, by the way, in most schools, there are trained officers with firearms.
Yeah.
Look at what happened in Uvalde. They were a bunch of cowards, and they didn't go in there, and they were all armed. So I'm not sure that's always
Well,
the
look,
answer.
I wasn't happy with those individuals, who did that, but I'd rather, I think the majority of police officers, they don't do it for the money. They put their lives on the line every day.
I don't doubt that.
Yeah,
I certainly don't doubt
and,
that.
I know plenty of cops here in Las Vegas that if they were there, they would have put their lives on the line to protect their
I don't
children.
doubt that. I
Yeah.
agree with you. But
Yeah.
again, I go back to what I said earlier. We have a gun violence problem in this country, and I don't hear from the people that want to get into the weeds with me about what an assault weapon is. I ask them, what are your solutions? So I'm going to ask you the same question.
Sure.
I can name you 5 or 6. I've named you a couple. I would also talk about red flag laws being stricter, for lack of a better term.
Well, I'll tell you, in my personal life, I'm armed most of the time. I'm my family's last line of defense. I am concerned about kind of the shootings that happen in schools. My kids are going to be homeschooled. They're going to have armed security 24/7, right? So, we have armed security at our banks, all politicians, celebrities. I don't see a reason why we can't have armed security for our most precious resources.
A lot of
kids.
schools do have armed security.
Yeah.
You're aware of that, right?
And
a lot of schools do.
Right.
Most schools do, actually. But, gun violence is not just in schools, as you know.
Mhm.
It's all across the country. It could be in a mall. It could be anywhere. You look at what took place in New Orleans.
Mhm.
I just want to know what solutions people have, because here's what frustrates me. A couple things. Number one, and I'm not saying you are this person, but a lot of Republicans don't seem to have any solutions.
You just don't like my solutions.
Well, I want to hear you out on your solutions.
Yeah.
I haven't heard any yet, but here's what I will say. After a school shooting, Democrats don't go into the halls of Congress wearing AR-15 pins. That's what some George Santos was one of them.
Like our friend George, yeah.
Well, he admitted he was wrong in doing so.
Did he? Okay.
I've had private conversations with him about that. I think that's despicable. And I've never heard a Democrat running for office bragging about their A+ rating from the NRA.
Actually, there have been.
I haven't heard of any. If there are, I would call them out.
The former senator from West Virginia used to brag about it.
Then I would call him out for it if that's true. I'm not aware of that, but I will take your word for it. Then he's wrong.
Right.
Because the NRA is buying politicians. They're buying politicians. And I have a serious problem with that. I have a serious problem with that. When you walk into the halls of Congress wearing an AR-15 pin the day after innocent children are murdered, that is despicable. Can we agree on that? It's a horrible thing to do. It's horrible. It's insensitive to the victims, their families. It's a horrible thing to do. Can we at least agree on that? It's a horrible judgment.
Brian, I believe that objects cannot kill people. It is a individual person who did it. You told me that I can't blame the whole left for what Tyler, what's his name, did to Charlie. So I think it's unfair to blame an inanimate object that cannot function without a person behind it.
So by your standards, everybody could have bombs. You could bring a bomb on an airplane. Well, listen, you're laughing, but you just said I don't blame the object, I blame the person.
Right.
So by your logic, everybody could have bombs, everybody could have machine guns, everybody have grenades. It's totally fine with you, as long as you don't use it in a bad way.
Well, it's like this is like just reducto ad absurdum, right? I mean, you're just going to take it to this level. Like we're not dealing with this crisis of people bringing guns on bombs on. First of all, it's you can't bring a gun on a plane, and most airplane companies.
So you're okay with laws and restrictions? That's exactly what I'm talking about with you. I'm talking about restrictions, and that's a safety thing. Would you agree with me? You're not allowed to bring a gun and bring it through TSA and bring it on a plane. Why? Because that can cause a major issue when you're thousands of feet in the air. That is a restriction. While we have the Second Amendment, which I am okay with, we should have some restrictions. And you talk about the Constitution when we had something called muskets. It's a very different time we are living in today.
Well, okay. I mean, if you want to get into did the founding fathers think technology would not advance at all? I mean,
the founding fathers thought it was okay to own people. So I'm not going to listen to everything the founding fathers say, because I think they got a lot of things wrong. And I would also say, if you're a constitutionalist, I don't know if you would call yourself one.
I would.
Okay. So if you're a constitutionalist, then are you okay with Donald Trump not giving people due process? Because in the Constitution, it says any person, not any citizen. So if you're a constitutionalist, have you called out Donald Trump for basically ripping up parts of the Constitution?
You'd have to give me a specific example.
Okay, sure. So in this country, as you know, there are plenty of people, some nonviolent criminals that have been deported to like an El Salvador prison. They're not getting due process. They're not getting their time in a courtroom. And in the Constitution, it specifically says, doesn't say any citizen. It says, quote, any person has the right to due process. There are thousands and thousands of people. I guarantee you it's happening right now as we're speaking. People that are not getting due process. As a constitutionalist, are you willing to criticize Donald Trump for going against parts of the Constitution, in this case, not giving everybody due process?
Well, I mean, like what would due process be in that situation? Are you a U.S. citizen? Are you here legally? You are or you aren't, right? I mean, like that's
so. We can go to the simple facts of whether somebody is legal or not legal, but everybody deserves an opportunity to be in a courtroom to defend themselves. Garcia and many others have been sent to high maximum security prisons with no opportunity to defend themselves. Do you remember what the Trump administration did? They saw tattoos and they assumed that they were part of very serious and dangerous gangs without having the opportunity to defend themselves. By the way, it's not illegal in this country to have tattoos. MS-13, they accused them all.
MS-13 is a designated terrorist organization, I believe.
I can have a tattoo on my arm that says MS-13. That doesn't mean I've committed a crime. That's what I mean by giving everybody the right to due process. It's one thing if you're an undocumented immigrant, but it's another thing if you're being sent to an El Salvador prison, a high maximum security prison, because we're just taking the word of Pam Bondi. Oh, you're a part of MS-13 gang. Oh, really? Why? Well, because we saw a tattoo on your knuckle that we believe says MS-13. That's not giving somebody due process. Woodrow, do you follow me on that?
Well, I mean, my understanding is he's back in America, right?
Well, for now, but
Yeah.
but that's just an example, as I'm trying to give. Would you agree with me in our Constitution in that aspect? Everybody has the right to due process, whether you're undocumented or not. Fair to say?
That defines. You'd have to get into details of what constitutes due process. I believe, aren't there literally judges whose jobs are to determine whether someone's a citizen or not if it's in question?
Right, but the judges didn't have the opportunity to do that.
And he's gotten a ton of due process. The courts have.
Well, now after the story became public, but he certainly didn't get due process when he was thrown on a plane without any due process at all and no court ruling and sent to an El Salvador prison. There are still dozens and dozens of people that were sent to that prison that are nonviolent criminals. It's a misdemeanor when you're in this country illegally. It's not even a felony. It's a misdemeanor. And they're tackling these people. I saw a story yesterday about a mother who was dropping off her kids who's lived in this country for, I think it was in Ohio, 35 years she's lived in this country. And they tackle her to the ground. They handcuff her, nonviolent criminal. And then people say, hey, telling the ICE agents, hey, we need to tell their kids. But it's like a kidnapping, man. I mean, to me, it's not. Listen, Obama deported a lot of people, but we didn't have Dr. Phil in there with a microphone, and they weren't gleeful about it, and they weren't approaching it the way they're approaching it today. I don't know. I think it's a.
Yeah, Obama deported more people than Trump.
He did, but he didn't make a spectacle of it, and he wasn't deporting people outside of Home Depot. He wasn't deporting people outside of courtrooms. And last I checked, the ICE agents there were all identifying themselves. There's people across the country that are wearing scarves over their face that are not identifying themselves. That's not the country that I want to live in. Is that the country you want to live in, where people don't even identify themselves? You want to talk about the Constitution and law? You can't just tackle somebody to the ground and handcuff somebody and throw them in a van without saying, hey, we're ICE. Hey, we're law enforcement. Here's who we are. Many of these vehicles don't even have plates on the back. It's completely against our Constitution. It's unlawful.
I'm not familiar with any of that, so I can't really.
Well, I can tell you there's videos all over YouTube. They're all over the place that I've seen it. But let's move on to what's going on right now. If you're just joining us, Woodrow Johnson, nice enough to join us in studio. He's the chairman of the Nevada Young Republicans. I hope your friends don't say that you're being too nice to me today. He's also a political strategist. Let's talk about what's going on right now. I understand that you're a staunch supporter of Donald Trump. What do you make of what took place the other day? You're a political strategist. What do you make of the fact that in these states it was pretty much a landslide victory for Democrats across the board, and 10-point victory, in some cases larger in Virginia compared to Kamala Harris's win in these blue states? And yes, they are blue states. As a strategist, what do you make of what took place the other day?
Okay, well, one, you said part of what I'm going to say is these are blue states, right? And it's also, it's very historical that the party that takes power in the White House, they tend to do poorly in midterms and the elections that follow. That's just how the pendulum swings. I think a lot of, and what has changed, and I can tell you as a political strategist who looks at the data, is that it used to be Democrats were the low propensity party and that you had to work really hard to get Democrats to vote for your candidate if you were a Democrat. That's completely flipped. Now Republicans need to work harder to get the Republicans to come out. A lot of Republicans are motivated by Trump and nobody else. There's plenty of people who will vote for Trump and vote for no one else. That's just how, and it used to be people would vote for Obama and no one else. Things have just kind of flipped over. When you look at, if you want, we can go state by state. If we look at New York, and Mamdani won by, I think, just barely 50%, which is not as wide of a margin as previous Democrats have done. Wasn't the same margin that in 2021. I would say that Mamdani's victory is more a rejection of the establishment than it is of the Republican Party or Donald Trump or anything like that. New York's a blue city, right? It has been for a while now, and in that situation, you had people want to have a representative that's going to fight for them.
You don't think he's that person?
Well, hold on, let me get to that point. Yeah. So I don't agree with his policies, but what I will say, and this honestly might have been the moment that Mamdani won the election, and obviously I have a huge respect for the country of Israel. I do think they're an important ally, but the mayor of New York has nothing to do with the state of Israel. And when the question was asked, hey, what's your first state visit going to be? And everyone says Israel, 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 Ukraine, Israel. And he says, I'm going to help the Jewish Americans in New York City, because that to me, that just seems like a pretty common sense answer. And so I think New Yorkers saw someone who was going to fight for them.
I like that answer. I agree with you.
Yeah, who was going to fight for them. Now, I think his policies are terrible. I think some of the stuff he wants to do, he either won't do, realize he can't do it, or some of the stuff.
What do you think is like a terrible policy?
Well, I'll give you an example. He said he wants to arrest Bibi Netanyahu if he steps
Well, that's not going to happen. The mayor doesn't have control of it.
Well, I mean, look, if he
that's not really a policy. It's just his opinion.
It's something that he says he wants to do. It says
of course.
Yeah,
Donald Trump says he wants to arrest basically every member of the media that disagrees with him. But that's not a policy though. Give me a policy that you don't like that you think.
That is a policy.
Arresting Benjamin, that's his opinion. He thinks Benjamin Netanyahu should be
arrested
for war crimes.
He even got specific. He said that we should enforce the International Criminal Court's warrant, which is something that the United States does not follow, and arrest him. And what is that going to mean? Does that mean a standoff between him and between the New York Police Department and?
But Woodrow, he's a mayor. That's when I say policy, I mean something that he is actually going to implement.
The mayor
can't implement that.
Okay, you don't think the mayor has some control over?
Okay. Not over arresting a foreign ally in Benjamin Netanyahu. There's nothing that he can. He's a mayor. He's the mayor of New York City.
He did say that. I mean, he did say that, and it's something that he said he wanted to do.
So give me a policy as far as New York City is concerned.
Sure.
You think is bad for the city,
right?
Yeah.
Well, we can get into things like, he wants to raise the income tax rates
for the richest and wealthiest.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and
you don't think that's a good idea?
I don't think it's a good idea, particularly for a city, because people could just move outside the city limits. So what you're doing is you're just incentivizing the rich people to leave and all the jobs they provide to just leave.
I would say then good, let them leave.
Okay.
I mean, $100 billion. I guess I'll make it on a national scale and ask you this. This is where we might disagree on this, I'm sure, but Donald Trump is giving the biggest tax cuts in the history of this country to the top 1%. This year alone, $100 billion in tax cuts to the top 1%, while they're taking money away from food stamps, from Medicaid. I have a serious problem with that. Now, listen, if people leave New York City because this guy wants to tax you a little bit more and wants you to pay your fair share, we can disagree on this.
Oh, the rich already pay the vast majority of taxes.
Not by percentages, they don't. Not by percentages. Okay. In fact, if someone making $40,000 a year in this country is paying a higher percentage of taxes than Jeff Bezos is paying, I have a serious problem with that. I'm just talking about the percentage. If you want to put a flat tax percentage for everybody, fine. I wouldn't have a problem with that. But that's not what Donald Trump is doing.
Me and Brian Shapiro agree. Flat tax. All right, let's go.
But Trump would never do that. Republicans would never do that.
Right.
They want to give tax breaks to the top 1%. The people that are benefiting off of Donald Trump are the richest people in this country. I have a serious problem with that. I want to give tax breaks. I want to do what Kamala Harris wanted to do. Give tax breaks to people that are making under $400,000 a year in households. She wanted to lower the taxes to 26%. These are the biggest tax. Okay, look, when we're taking away food stamps and we're taking away Medicaid, very important government programs, and I'm sure we would agree that there's always going to be a small percentage of people that are going to take advantage of the system. I get that. Mm-hmm. But there are people in this country, Woodrow, you would agree with me, that are struggling right now. Mm-hmm. And yet we're going to give Jeff Bezos the biggest tax breaks that this country's ever seen.
The Republicans offered a clean CR. The only reason, and the Democrat talking point that we've been hearing is that, well, Republicans control all branches of government. And
they do.
They do, true. But you require 60 votes in the Senate.
Why are they not voting
and even John Fetterman has said that Democrats own this shutdown.
Yeah, well, John Fetterman's trying to run as a Republican, and he's a whack job. So I don't want to use him as you can, but I think he's lost his marbles. But you're right. You have to get to 60 votes. Yes. Why are Democrats not? I would like to think that what they've
said that they're using this as leverage.
Well, big and beautiful bill. They always talk about the big and beautiful bill. 20 million Americans are going to lose their Medicaid coverage. And by the way, it is illegal for undocumented immigrants to qualify for Medicaid. Now, I do believe, and I think you're going to agree with me on this. This might be another area where we'll agree. Mm-hmm. If you're having a heart attack and you're undocumented and you could be close to losing your life, a serious thing. Mm-hmm. If you're dropped off at the ER, we should probably help those people, not ask for their paperwork, right?
You do no harm, yeah.
Good. Okay, so we agree on that.
Yeah, that's Hippocratic oath.
And that's not Medicaid. That's not, okay, we agree on that.
Right.
20 million Americans are going to lose their health care coverage. Millions of Americans losing their food stamps. We're seeing it already. Mm-hmm. Democrats don't want that to happen. How do you feel about that? We talked about the biggest tax breaks for the top 1%. We obviously disagree on that. But we're the richest country in the world, Woodrow. We should be able to take care of people that need help. I'm not saying lazy people on their app, but that's not what I'm talking about here. The overwhelming majority of these people are working. And I have a serious problem with that. I don't know how you feel about that, but that's just my opinion.
Well, look, I mean, I'll give you an example, like an anecdotal example. Like my grandmother, I love my grandmother, want her to be taken care of. She's lived in the Philippines her entire life. I was born where she was raised. She recently, a couple years ago, got a green card. She's never paid American taxes. She's in California. She's a resident of California now. And she gets free healthcare. Right. And look, I'm glad my grandmother's being taken care of, but there's something fundamentally broken when someone who was not a citizen, never paid taxes here, gets free health care paid for by American tax dollars. There's something wrong. There's something that I think most people would, if they saw that, wouldn't be super thrilled about that.
Isn't there something more wrong with middle-aged Republicans that want to take health care away from your grandmother, that have the best health care in the country, the best health care probably in the world, that are making six-figure salaries? Isn't there something wrong with that?
I'm not
Can't
sure.
we meet somewhere in between? You don't think your grandmother, regardless of the fact how long she's been here, that she doesn't deserve health care? How old is she?
She's in her 80s.
And I would imagine she doesn't have the financial means. It's very difficult for her to afford health care, right?
I think that honestly, I don't want to get into my family drama.
Well, you brought it up, so I'm just,
much here, but I think that that if the government wasn't paying for it, a relative would be paying for it. And I think that I think a lot of times, I don't know if you're familiar with Grover Cleveland. Actually, this is a great example that kind of answers your question.
Yeah.
There was once a hurricane that destroyed a bunch of farmland, and a lot of people were begging Grover Cleveland, please sign this bill to give this relief to these farmers that are suffering from this hurricane. And Grover Cleveland, he vetoed the bill, and he said, the reason why I'm doing this is because I believe in the American people. I believe that we'll come together and we'll help these people. And as soon as we get into this point where the government will just take care of it, people will wash their hands of responsibility for caring for their fellow man and just expect the government to do it. And that's kind of what's happened over the past 100 years. But in that situation, he did veto it, and Americans did come together, and they voluntarily gave to these farmers to help them. So I do think that there's kind of a culture of dependency on the government that's occurred over the past 100 years since FDR, and I'm not a fan of it. A lot of Republicans are not a fan of it, and I think it's part of the problem. Part of the problem why our deficit is as high as it is.
I think. I certainly think the tariffs have a lot to do with that. And I think Donald Trump I know he got his $8.2 trillion in debt his first go around. But I think it's, in my personal opinion, I think it's an issue of compassion. We're all Americans here. I support your grandmother in getting the help that she needs, especially at her age. And again, I think Republicans and Democrats need to sit down at the table and negotiate something so that people don't lose the help that they need. But Woodrow, I want to get to the phone calls because I know there's a lot of people that I'm sure want to chime in. We've talked about a lot of different topics today. And Woodrow's nice enough to be here and take some calls at 702-221-7283. And again, that number, if you would like to be a part of the conversation, now's the time to call in. Woodrow Johnson in studio. He's the chairman of the Nevada Young Republicans. He's also a political strategist. Obviously, he knew coming in here that we would probably disagree on a lot of issues, but I appreciate the conversation. I think it's a good one. Just like, listen, I went into the Lion's Den with Tim Pool a few weeks ago. I did his show in Virginia, and I'm doing his show again in D.C., and I think it's the one thing that I think I had in common with Charlie Kirk is that he wanted good political discourse. Now, I don't only debate 18 and 19-year-old Republicans. I actually
neither did Charlie.
For the most part, though, that's what he did.
I mean, Charlie,
for the most
part, Oxford, and he debated with scholars and professors as well. I know that's the fun talking point. All he did was talk to 18-year-olds, but
that's really what Turning Point was, right? Going to college university, and for the most part, that's what he did.
Well, look, colleges are the laboratories of democracy, and I think that Colleges have always been the public square. And look, and honestly, when I hear this talking point, and honestly, I feel like it's putting down, young adults. Adults are adults. An 18-year-old vote counts as much as your vote.
Yeah, but you're not a great debater if you can out-debate an 18-year-old ill-informed liberal. You're a great debater when you could actually go on the opposition and debate 40 and 50 and 60-year-olds. And by the way,
I think Charlie would have debated you, by the way.
I'm
sure he would have loved to come on this
I
program.
I was supposed to debate him in December in Phoenix.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. I don't know. I don't know if he. I don't know. I just think when you're a Ben Shapiro, no relation, and you get paid boatloads of money.
I forgot to ask you that. No relation.
Thank God. That little weasel.
I was going to say Thanksgiving must be really awkward.
Yeah, no relation. Thank God. Although sometimes people call me Ben, it's really annoying. Listen. I didn't like Charlie Kirk. I know you were a fan of Charlie Kirk. I was not a fan of his. I will not celebrate his life because I don't think he was a good person. With that being said, what happened to him was horrible. I emphasize that again. It was horrible. He did not deserve that. He was murdered. It's terrible. I hope the person who did this is locked up for the rest of his life. But no, I don't think you're necessarily a great debater when you make a living, which for the most part, with the exception of some interviews and debates, for the most part, that's what he did. He debated a bunch of ill-informed. Okay, a lot of them, not all of them, ill-informed 18, 19, and 20-year-olds. I don't think that makes you a great debater. That's just my personal opinion. But
he debated young adults, but he also debated people of your caliber.
Not very often. Not very often. In fact, my friend Parker, he refused to debate him. There are plenty of Harry Sisson and others.
Didn't he debate Parker?
He gave him 2 questions.
Yeah.
And then
he debated 30 people. 30.
Yeah. So that was on Jubilee, and he didn't know who Parker was at that time.
Yeah.
And then Parker went to one of the universities where he was given like 5 minutes, and Parker wanted to do a one-on-one debate with him. And I know this for 30 minutes or 1 hour, and he refused to do so. And I said, why? Parker's a smart guy. It would have been very entertaining. And there were plenty of moments where Charlie Kirk did refuse to debate in long-form debates, not 1 or 2 questions, because to me, that's not a debate. When you give somebody 5 minutes, it's not a debate. You got to give somebody a little bit. But anyway, that's here nor there. Let's get to the phone calls. I know there's a lot of people that want to talk to you. Let's start off with Chris. Chris is first up on PTL. Hey, Chris, you're on with Woodrow. Go right ahead.
Hello. How are you guys doing today?
Good.
Hey, Chris. How are you?
Nice to talk to you guys. Did you hear about the story out of Perry County, Tennessee, and the Sheriff Nick Weems?
I did not.
Me neither.
Okay, so Sheriff Nick Weems arrested a retired police officer who is a Democrat in the state of Tennessee because he posted a meme with Trump, and he put the guy in jail for 5 weeks. Finally had to release him.
Oh, okay. Yes, I do know this story. I do know this story. Yeah, I do know that. Yeah. That's weaponizing our government. That's weaponizing the deal.
It's a meme. It's a meme because they were trying to claim it was some sort of threat against the school, which is BS.
Right.
So I hope that guy sues and Nick Weems loses his job because Nick Weems is a big Trump humper. And then also, did you hear about the ICE agent who shot the person, I think it was in Chicago, and ran to Maine in a government-issued vehicle and now being hauled back and could face 20 years in prison?
I did hear about that story as well. Yep.
Yeah, I don't advocate for violence, but I think people are going to start getting tired of this, and I think Trump's betting on this.
Well, I think people have already started to get tired of it. Look at what happened in the elections the other day. Woodrow, would you agree that with this caller that people are starting to get a little bit? I think many of the people who voted for Trump, they voted for a secure border, but I don't think they voted for this. They didn't vote for people as this gentleman.
They voted for Trump.
Yeah.
They voted for Trump for 2 reasons. They wanted the border. Supposedly, we're going to have, grocery prices down. Yeah. And they hate, he hates the same people.
Well, Woodrow, what would you say to that? Go ahead, Woodrow. What would you say to that?
Well, I'm not familiar with, I haven't heard those stories at all. Right. So clearly we're reading, again, I'm not responsible for every individual's action. So I can't say that, it's difficult for me to comment on the situation.
Well, you're not responsible for everybody's actions, but surely you would have an opinion on it, no?
Well, like just taking it at face value and taking everything you're saying, without, any other context. Yeah, that sounds
You're not
terrible.
responsible for Donald Trump being an adjudicated rapist, but you can still call it out, can you not? He was liable for sexually abusing E. Jean Carroll. The judge characterized it as rape. He has 25 women that have accused him of sexual assault or rape, including his ex-wife in court documents in a deposition. I don't blame you for that, but you can surely say, hey, that's horrible. That's horrible behavior. Is that fair?
I mean, I don't believe any of the. I think those were weaponized cases. I think those were not. I think
so. Is Onek? So you don't believe any of those women?
I don't.
So a jury of his peers finds him liable, but you don't.
Was it a jury or was it a judge?
It was a jury.
Okay.
Jury of his peers found him liable
Right.
for sexually abusing E. Jean Carroll. They had the evidence that we were not able to see, and you believe it was all weaponized, and he's innocent, and he's never abused a woman before. What about going into teenage girls' locker rooms, which he bragged about on the Howard Stern show? Are you willing to call that out?
Brian, it's like this is the one thing I don't like about your show. I feel like
What's
every
that?
time any Republican goes on, we have to defend every single little
No,
thing.
you don't. All you have to say is, I don't condone that behavior. Why is it so hard to say that? Why is it so hard, Woodrow? You're a nice guy. Why is it so hard just to say, if Donald Trump did that, it's horrible? And then we can move on to something else. But you always defend it. And I see a lot of Republicans that curl themselves into a pretzel. Woodrow, he bragged about going into teenage girls' locker rooms. Now, if you can find me something that a Democrat did that is at that level, I wouldn't say, oh, this is what you Republicans always do. You know what I would say? That's horrible. That's wrong. That's terrible what he did. Who was the guy who ran for mayor in New York City, who was doing the sexting?
Cuomo?
Weiner, Anthony Weiner. He's done the show before, but I think he's a scumbag. I would never. Why can't you just say, gosh, that behavior is horrible? And while I don't believe he sexually abused E. Jean Carroll, going into teenage girls' locker rooms without their permission, it's terrible. Why are Republicans afraid to say that? Is that hard? I don't understand. That's what gets me frustrated. I just want people to call out bad behavior. It doesn't matter whether it's on the left or the right. That's why I want the Epstein files released. I don't care if Bill Clinton's in there or Democrats are in there. I don't care if it's 99% Democrat and Trump's in there. I want the Epstein files released.
Do you want them released if Trump's not on it?
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
Yeah.
And most of America does. But Donald Trump was his best friend. He doesn't want us talking about it. He called us all stupid for talking about it. Clearly, he's got something to hide. I mean, he was his best friend. For me to think that he's not in there, and the Wall Street Journal wouldn't even be a publication anymore if it wasn't true. That's all I'm saying. Woodrow.
I mean,
I'm not asking you to defend all of Donald Trump's behavior. All I'm saying is, why is it so hard for Republicans to say, gosh, that's horrible? He shouldn't have done that. Why is it so hard why do Democrats always have to apologize? Why are they the ones who always have to
I don't think Democrats do apologize.
They don't?
Did you see any Democrats asking Jay Jones to drop out?
Plenty of Republicans said his language was despicable and horrible.
Yeah, Republicans, but I didn't see. Abigail Spanberger was asked on the debate stage to ask Jay Jones to drop out, and she refused to do it.
Yeah,
I think that's the thing. I don't want to.
Okay, but I would tell you right now,
right?
What he said was awful.
Right.
It was stupid. It was inciting violence, and it was terrible.
Right.
I wouldn't vote for him. Why is it hard for Republicans to give me the same answer when Donald Trump says or does things that are reprehensible? What that man said was terrible. I would never vote for somebody like that. Okay. Moronic behavior. Going into teenage girls' locker rooms is despicable without their permission. I don't know why it's so hard for a Republican to. I'm not trying to pin you against the wall here. I'm just saying, am I asking something that's not fair? Why can't we be fair on both sides? Why can't we call out bad behavior? I hear MAGA Republicans calling Democrats pedophiles until the cows come home. They ran on, we're going to release the Epstein files. Pam Bondi had those lunatics out there with the binders. She made them look like morons. Why can't we just admit that Donald Trump is hiding something? Maybe he's not in there. I don't know. Release the files. Why won't he release the files?
Well, I mean, I can get, like I said, I think I'm going to agree with the previous guest. If Trump was on it, we would all know. It would be out there.
I disagree.
Yeah.
I respectfully disagree.
And frankly, I think Democrats kind of benefit from the current environment where it's this murky thing. And I don't think there is like a clean list. I doubt Epstein said, here is my client list of everyone who did this stuff and who, I don't think it's a clean
Let me
list.
ask you another question, and then I don't want to belabor the point here. We can take another call.
Sure.
Kash Patel was asked 7 times under oath in front of the House. Did you tell Pam Bondi that Donald Trump is in the Epstein files? 7 times he wouldn't answer the question. If the answer was no, which by the way, it's not, but if the answer was no, Why wouldn't he answer the question?
I would only be guessing. I would assume because it's an ongoing investigation.
It's not an ongoing investigation. They've actually closed the case.
Okay.
Pam Bondi is not openly investigating the Epstein file case. It's a closed case.
Mm-hmm.
So I would ask you again, why would Kash Patel not answer that question? If he wasn't in the Epstein files, which I think clearly he is, but if he wasn't, why wouldn't Kash Patel answer the question?
Why didn't Lois Lerner just say she wasn't targeting Democrats when she was having the IRS?
I mean, I think that's
targeting Republicans.
I think that's whataboutism. But you get the point I'm trying to make. I
mean,
they're hiding something. I'm not saying Democrats haven't hid things either. I'm just saying they're hiding something. But I don't want to belabor it with you with the Epstein stuff. I do want other people to get the chance to call. We got a call from the UK. Let's go to Paul. Paul, what's going on, man?
Hello, Brian. I think it's Woodrow, isn't it? I hope it's okay. The lines, when you come back in, you kind of go in and out, but I hope it's okay. You can hear me all right.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah, I just thought, as a UK man, one of the things that mildly amuses us about our American friends is you can be very insular and have a lot of misconceptions about what happens in the UK. Contrary to what I've heard from Americans who kind of tweet back on me on Blue Sky, we don't have, knife bloodbaths in the street here. I'm over 60 years old. I've got 6 kids. I've never heard of a knife crime against somebody. My kids have never reported a knife crime against me.
Where in the UK do you live?
Definitely don't. At the moment, I live just southwest of Cambridge, northeast of London. Okay. But I've lived all over. Mm-hmm. I've lived in London as well, central London. Now, what we definitely don't have is mass school knifings. We definitely don't have those. We don't have men armed with knife, AR, whatever it is, and go in and do mass school knifing. Mm-hmm. We do have gun violence in Britain, but it's very rare because it's very hard to get hold of a gun in Britain. If you have one, it has to be carefully stored and locked up and checked and so on and so forth. The last mass school shooting we had was 1996. And I've got a feeling it's because it's not easy to get hold of guns. Could be me. Call me an idiot, but I think it's because of that.
What do you say to that, Woodrow?
I would say that just because you haven't experienced or seen knife crime, it doesn't mean it's not happening. I challenge you to look at the statistics on that. I would also say that, the UK does not have the level of freedom we have in the United States. You have people who get arrested for posting stuff on Twitter for free speech. Your police has even threatened to extradite Americans. I will challenge your law enforcement. Go ahead and extradite me for that if you want. I'm not coming over there. And frankly, your country's being taken over by Islamicists, and what
are the crap you are talking? My friend, you are talking such a load of nonsense.
We don't have Sharia patrols in America, at least not in Nevada.
Oh, don't be ridiculous. Yeah. Don't be ridiculous. We don't have Islamist extremists taking over Britain.
Okay.
Honestly, it's just obscene. I live here. Okay. I live here.
Okay.
Trust me, we don't get overtaken by Islamic extremists. We don't have Osama bin Laden walking down the streets. It's not like that here.
Okay.
It's something do we have issues? We all, of course, because we're a multiracial country. So every country, and if we weren't, we'd have issues. Do we have Sharia law? Of course we don't. We have UK law, and we have free and fair elections. And they take a month to take place, and we vote in 33 seconds, and nobody points a gun at my head and asks me who I'm voting for. Well, we have a lot of things you don't have. But one thing we don't have is Sharia law.
Well, that's
we do not have it.
I will take Paul's side, certainly, on this one. Paul, it's good to hear from you. I appreciate the call. Let's go to somebody called Democrat MAGA, who calls into this show from time to time. By the way, he's a MAGA.
Is he a Democrat? Or
no, he's a MAGA supporter. Okay. Go ahead, Democrat MAGA. We'll just call you Mr. MAGA. Go right ahead.
It's me. Can you believe it's been 4 years straight, #1 caller on PTL? But anyway, I'm calling to agree with Brian for the first time in years about his take on SNAP benefits and the starving children in America. And what really got to me is the other day in Las Vegas when they showed the line of people getting food at 3 Square. Mm-hmm. And one family in particular, they're sitting there with their trunk open in their Toyota Highlander, 3 kids in the back seat on their iPhone 14s. 14s, Brian, not 20s. They couldn't afford that. Mm-hmm. Sure, they were all overweight, but they have a right to get their Funyuns for free, just like anybody else. I could not tell if this was Sudan or the USA. These starving children in America, this has got to stop. It's just, I'm sure your listeners can't tell the difference either. I thought it was Sudan. I mean, you and Leonard went on with the starving children of America because they haven't gotten their food in 2 weeks.
Okay, so I'm starting to get a sense that you're being sarcastic. Are you being truthful and serious that this does break your heart, or are you just trying to mock people for talking about children that are starving? Because I don't want to waste airtime.
How idiotic it is! Kids are not starving in America.
Kids are not starving. Okay, first of all, you have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. If I go in downtown Las Vegas right now, and I think Woodrow would agree with me on this, there are children that are starving. We have a major homeless problem in this country. We have starvation in this country. So for you to come on this show, and despicable, by the way, to make a joke and be sarcastic, when there are millions of people in this country right now that don't know how they're going to be getting their next meal, makes you an absolute imbecile. No, don't Brian me. Don't Brian me. Do you understand? Do you? Oh, by the way, and who did that? Was it Republicans or Democrats, you dope? For you to call into this, see, this is where I get pissed off.
Has people starving.
Stop talking about. Oh, so that makes it okay, doofus? There are millions of people in this country.
You show up and your family's on their iPhone and they're streaming a movie.
You have no idea. You have no idea what you're talking about. When was the last time you were in a soup kitchen, huh, doofus? When was the last time you were in a soup kitchen? When was the last time you helped the needy? When was the last time you gave food to people that are suffering in this country? There are families downtown right now and millions of families across the country while suffering. You have the gall and no decency to call into the show and try to make a sarcastic joke. What the hell is wrong with you? You are an imbecile is what you are. And you obviously have no compassion. And I pray to God, Jesus Christ, right now. I pray to Jesus right now. This is the religious side of me, Woodrow, that's coming out right now. I pray to Jesus right now that this MAGA imbecile that's on the phone one day starves. I pray one day, for one day, that you don't have food and you know what it feels like not knowing where your next meal is. You imbecile. You are an imbecile is what you are.
Do you think people in Sudan are starving?
You keep bringing up Sudan because you're a dumbass. I'm not talking about, we're the richest country in the world, you idiot. You're talking about some of the poorest countries in the world. We're the richest country in the world. Nobody should be starving to death, you doofus. I hope somebody takes every food and all the money that's out of your bank account one day and all the food that you have. I hope you donated all to the Donald Trump campaign or Donald Trump. And I hope you are starving one day. And then you'll call into the show and say, Brian, you know what? I was wrong. And then we'll make jokes about you on your iPhone. There are people in this city. There are people throughout the country that need food and they don't know where their next meal is going to be. And you're the idiot that calls into this show with no compassion. What a shocker. You're a Trump supporter. What a shocker. Get the hell off. Get this idiot off my show. Anyway, Woodrow, how you doing today?
Okay.
I'm sorry. Those are the people that drive me nuts. I know you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't mock the fact. You know that there are people in this country that are suffering. There are people that are starving. They're suffering. You would agree with that, right?
I do believe that people are suffering, but I will say that the America is unique, that it is very difficult to be poor in this country. Like it's
difficult to be poor.
Well, because hear me out here. If you graduate from high school and you don't have a child out of wedlock and you have a job, you will not be in poverty. That's it. If you do those 3 things, statistically speaking, you are not going to be in poverty. And we're in a pretty privileged position as Americans that we have that, because that's not true in most places in the world. And
I don't think it's that easy to not be in poverty. I think there are people that are in poverty for all sorts of different reasons, and I feel for them. And anybody that calls into this show, and I know you're not doing this, but for anybody that would call into the show and make jokes about people that are suffering is an absolute buffoon. I mean, and by the way, there's a lot of people in this country that are hardworking Americans that have 2 or 3 jobs,
Mhm.
and they would absolutely disagree with what you just said. There's people in this country that are struggling,
Absolutely.
that are working multiple jobs, and they're not getting paid livable wages. $7.50 an hour is not a livable wage. That's why Democrats want to raise minimum wage. So I would respectfully disagree with you. I don't think it's easy not to be poor in this country. I think there's a lot of good, hardworking Americans in this country that are poor for a lot of different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. That's
well,
all.
Look, I know people probably see a guy in a suit jacket and they think I'm a privileged Ivy League person or something. But I've been homeless before. I wasn't homeless for very long because I worked really hard. Right. I believe that most homeless people right now choose to be homeless, and it's a mental health thing.
There's addiction involved. There's mental illness involved, but that doesn't mean we can't help them. That doesn't mean
absolutely.
And I think that's the point. But there's also people that work at Walmart that are working 2 or 3 jobs that are not mentally ill.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they don't have an education, but they didn't have the opportunities that I had. They didn't have the opportunities that you had, and that's why we need to help those people. Let's get back to the phone calls.
Sure.
Let's go to Jason. Jason is next up on PT. We got about 10 more minutes. Hey, Jason, what's up?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Hey, Brian. Who's your guest? Woodrow?
Yeah. Yep.
Woodrow, the Republican Party, you're a prime example. They'll just allow anybody to be whoever in that party. But there is no reason that anytime someone brings up anything that dear cult leader of you guys has done, you don't know nothing about it. But I bet you know about Joe Biden's picture being AI'd when he smelled the kid's hair, and you guys ran with that BS. But you don't know nothing about Donald Trump. Then you want to say trans is a mental, situation. No, MAGA is a mental disease. You guys don't care about the American people. You don't have empathy for anyone. You care about Donald Trump. You will bow down no matter what. And people are sick of it.
Go. I think. I get your point. I get your point.
To sit here and listen to this young kid be indoctrinated by Turning Point. It's clear with a little smirk on his face. He cares more about Donald Trump than he cares about his family.
Woodrow,
He's 22 years old.
Let's give Woodrow the chance to defend himself. Go ahead, Woodrow.
Okay. I mean, I don't even know what to address there. He's just saying I'm an evil person.
Well, he's saying that you're spoiled and you're a Turning Point kind of.
I'm 34 years old. I have 2 children.
He does look like he's 16 though.
Yeah, I mean, it's good genes, I guess. But
let's go. Let's take another call.
I mean, I don't even know how to address that. It's just if you. I don't expect you to defend me, but I feel like I should scream at this guy for.
Well, you can say whatever you want.
Yeah, I mean, this guy
obviously don't swear,
but I don't even want to give this guy the time of day.
I don't want your Republican friends to think you're being too nice.
Believe me, I want to, but I'm using a lot of self-control. There's no reason to even dignify that guy with a response.
All right, let's go to Jay. Jay is next up on PTL. What's up, Jay?
Hello.
Hey.
So I want to talk to a guy who you're talking to in the video. I just want to ask you something. Why are you smiling whenever Brian brings up serious topics? Are you nervous?
I am a little nervous. I'm not a professional radio guy. I mean,
he's not. You're not nervous. Come on.
I know.
I'm a little
You've
nervous.
done this
it's like you're smiling because it's a joke or something.
Well, I'm laughing now because I thought that's kind of funny. You shouldn't be nervous, Woodrow. Come on. Just pretend like nobody's listening, like all the right-wing radio shows in this town that literally have no listeners. Just pretend like you're on
and then
shows.
It's
yeah.
Another problem I have, it's this is what I notice in other communities when someone is bad, is that whenever someone says, oh, this guy's bad, and then another person defends and saying, what about this guy and that guy? It's yeah, we would call other people out too, but it's if all you have to say is,
I mean, that's
that, oh, so-and-so's worse, then that's a problem. That doesn't explain anything good Trump's done.
Go ahead, Woodrow, if you have anything to say to
that. I don't know how to respond to that. I mean, I think that if I'm guilty of it, you're guilty of it too. I've watched the show.
Mm-hmm.
Usually whenever I see someone bring up a really good point, you will shift the conversation to something else and say, well, what about this? Trump did that. And you'll say,
I would have to know which specific, thing we were talking about.
Right.
And obviously if somebody brings up a good point, I certainly want to debate them and I don't want to change the subject.
Mm-hmm.
But
I have seen you do it.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I'm playing the same game you're playing right now. So I don't think I should be held to a higher standard, than you on this show. I'm if you're going to do that, I'm going to do it too.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know which specific debate or argument you'd be referring to, but I'll take on anything. Let's go to Al. Al is next up on PTL. Hello, Al. Hi, Al. Go right ahead.
Hey, listen. So I just heard you say.
Is that Al Rojas?
That you were praying. This is Al.
Hey, Al. How's it going?
Al. Pretty good. Hey, listen. I just heard you say that you pray to Jesus, but the other.
Your phone cut out a little bit there, Al. We can't understand what you're saying, so try to repeat it. I think Al's on an Obama phone. Al, go ahead.
Can you now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Listen, you just said that you were praying to Jesus.
Yes.
And I called you one time, and you told me that the Bible was a fairy tale. How does that work?
I do, because somebody wrote a book, and I don't abide by a book. And I actually, right now, just said as a joke.
Yeah, he was mocking Christianity, by the way.
Clearly, no, I was mocking somebody who I wasn't mocking Christianity.
No, you were, because you were also.
No, I wasn't mocking Christianity. Here's what I was mocking: somebody who calls into a show that makes a joke about children that are starving. And I was obviously making a joke myself, saying, I pray to Jesus that this guy starves one day so he knows what it's like. And by the way, I was partially being serious. That's not an attack on people that are Christians. That's not an attack on people that are religious. If you're a religious person, that's great. But if you're a religious person who calls into this show and makes a joke about people starving, you're a piece of human garbage. And you're damn right.
Do you know the religion of that guy? I mean,
I don't know. But anybody who calls into a show who makes a joke about people starving can go to hell. And that doesn't mean that's an attack on Christianity. I attack people who are religious people who are making jokes, or anybody that makes jokes about somebody.
You're praying to a God that I believe in, that many Americans believe in, and you're cursing somebody, which is also a sin.
I didn't curse on the air.
You said you what? No.
Thank you for the call out. Great question.
Yeah, you're wishing like bad on somebody.
Yes,
and
I am.
You're praying to a God you don't believe in.
Yep.
And
wait, what do you mean I don't believe in? You don't know what my.
You just said that you think the Bible's a fairy tale.
That doesn't mean I don't believe in a God. That doesn't mean I don't believe in a higher power.
Do you believe in Jesus? Because I don't think you do.
I believe in a higher power, whether that's Jesus or
but
God.
You said,
I really don't care.
You said Jesus.
Yeah.
It was in your prayer. So you're mocking my belief and the belief of, frankly, millions of Americans.
Okay, so let me be very clear.
So,
let me clear this up for you.
Sure.
If somebody calls into the show and makes fun of children that are starving, I hope that person starves. Now, I was making a joke about I pray to Jesus because a lot of people that I think are on the alt-right, they seem to talk about family values, and yet they support the 34-count convicted felon liable rapist. I find that to be very hypocritical. If somebody is offended by the fact that I said I pray to Jesus that this guy starves one day, then that's on them. I really don't care. If somebody jokes around about people that are starving, I don't care what religion you are. You're a horrible human being, and I wish nothing but the worst for you. Now, whether I say I pray to Jesus or not, I was actually making a joke about that because I don't really pray. But I do believe in a higher power. That's about as far as I take it. I do believe in a higher power. But really, I could care less whether people believe in a higher power or not. What I care about people having empathy and how they treat others. If people want to hide behind their religion in some circumstances to hide their bigotry, I could care less what religion they're in. But yeah, I'm not mocking. I respect anybody that has any religion, and you can believe whatever you want. Just don't push your beliefs on me. That's how I feel. I've always felt that way.
Well, look, I've seen you make jokes. I've seen you make despicable jokes.
Like what? Tell me.
I can't remember off the top of my head, to be honest. But
well,
but here's the thing. I don't wish bad, evil, or bad on you. I don't pray to my God for bad things to happen.
I don't
to you.
make fun of people that are starving.
In fact, well, look, you might have made a joke that I didn't like. You might have,
making a joke you don't like is very different than making a joke about people that are starving to death.
Okay. So my point is that. When I pray, I pray for good things to happen to you. And that's my belief.
Good.
And
I appreciate that. I don't wish upon anything bad to happen to you.
Yeah. Well, look,
but I don't pray for bad people.
Okay. Well, I do.
Okay. That's your right.
Yeah. And
that's your right.
And yeah. And frankly, I mean, that's what I believe. And I just telling you, I didn't.
You have the right to believe that. I would never take that right away from you.
Yeah. And even though I didn't personally appreciate you invoking Jesus' name for something bad on somebody
Can I ask you a question, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
What bothered you more? Me invoking Jesus' name, saying, I hope this guy starves for one day because I want him to feel what many of these, or him calling into a radio show, making fun and making a joke of people that are children that are starving. What bothers you more?
Well, first of all, I mean, like, one, it wasn't a very funny joke. But I think the point he was trying to make is what you are saying is he just doesn't believe what you're saying is happening. He doesn't believe that it's like South Sudan.
He doesn't have to
Yeah.
believe it, but
And
he
he
was
was
making a joke and making the case that children are not really starving here.
And that's a sincerely held belief he has. And I guess I just didn't appreciate you using my religion and the religion of a lot of people and say, hey, I want bad things to happen to that guy for making a joke you didn't like.
But isn't that my right to say
It absolutely is your right. Absolutely is your right. And I'm not even wishing anything bad to happen to you, because I'm just saying. I was told I didn't call you out enough, so I'm calling you out a little bit.
Well, I'm going to double down on what I did. If you're a bad person and you think it's a joke that children are starving, clearly he called into the show and he thought it was funny.
Right.
Then I'm not going to pray for you, and I don't wish good things to happen to you. And I think he's a scumbag.
Mm-hmm.
And if one day he starves, I won't feel the least bit sorry for him. That's who I am. I don't waste my time praying for good people. I wouldn't put my hand on the Bible and pray for the president of the United States, who is the guy who's attacked POWs, Gold Star families. I believe he's in the Epstein files. I believe he's a rapist. I wouldn't waste my time and put my hand. By the way, he wouldn't put his hand on the Bible. He can't name one verse in the Bible, but for some reason, Christians and evangelicals don't want to call him out for that. The man who is a far bigger sinner than the average person on any given way. I just choose not to care about bad people. I choose not to pray for bad people. I pray for good people. I feel for decent, good people. Doesn't mean I always have to agree with them. Doesn't mean that we have to agree politically on every issue. But I care about decent people who care about others. The man has no empathy. And when somebody calls into this show and they show that they have no empathy for children who are starving, I wish them nothing but the worst. Now, we're different on that.
Sure.
We're different on that. And I respect the fact that you all think that way.
I mean,
fine.
I'm just saying that people who don't think exactly like me are not necessarily evil. And,
I agree with you.
And I think that even people who do bad things might be, from their perspective, doing something very good. And maybe they are, there are certainly people who are evil.
Yeah.
And frankly, I pray for the evil and the hatred in their heart to go away. And that's what I pray for.
Well, there's going to be a lot of praying for Donald Trump then. I think he has a lot of hate in his heart. But that's another story for another show.
Right.
Let's end on a good note. Let me just say that, Woodrow, I really do appreciate you being here. The time goes by very fast. I also appreciate your friend George Santos for being here. These are conversations that more Americans need to have. I've said that all the time. I'd rather have a conversation with somebody that I disagree with than somebody that I agree with. And for the record, I do not wish anything bad to happen to you. I want to make that very clear.
Appreciate it, Brian.
Because you would never make a joke like that, and I know that about you. But I don't want people making jokes about children that are starving, and I felt like that was But anyway, I do appreciate you being here. Is there anything you want to plug before we let you go about the Nevada Young Republicans and how people can get involved?
Yeah, absolutely. If you are the age a Republican from ages 18 to 40 in the state of Nevada, we'd love to have you join our organization. Our mission is to elect Republicans from the top of the ballot to the bottom of the ballot. You go to NevadaYoungRepublicans.com and feel free to put in an inquiry, and we'll have someone reach out to you. It'll probably be me or one of my colleagues. If you are running for office, I happen to help candidates from school board to president, and you are a Republican, you would like to run for office, you go to reveresolutions.com. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you, Brian. Always keeps me on my toes. I always get a little nervous, but
don't get nervous.
It's funny. I actually, you got mad at me because I would. Oh, sorry. I'll go cut it out.
No, you can 10 seconds. Go ahead.
Yeah. I'll tell any Republican candidate, I still don't think they should go on your show, because if they're in a contentious Republican primary.
Well, I think it shows some guts to do it. We disagree on that, but I do appreciate you being here, Woodrow. Thank you very much for being here. Have a great day, everybody. I'm flying out to Washington, D.C. tomorrow. Leonard will be filling in for me. Have a great day, everybody. We appreciate Woodrow being here.